Boys are falling behind. The data's there. The American Institute of Boys and Men has the data to prove that. But it is getting a bit worrying for boys. Here in Ireland, Ireland ranks fourth worst in terms of suicide for boys aged 15 to 19. Who are the positive role models out there for these younger men? And where are they? What are they saying? There are positive role models, but they're not as vocal as chaps. There's some of these sort of more toxic influencers, and they're filling the void. And it frustrates me.
You're listening to Getting It Wrong to Get It Right.
Emmett, welcome to Getting It Wrong to Get It Right. How are you?
Very good, Joe. Good to be here.
Like most of the people that I speak to, and I'm sure that my listeners, hear me say a lot of time, we met on LinkedIn. For us, you posted something which resonated with an awful lot of people, good and bad, and that was about masculinity. You know, it was really focused on young people. What drew me towards it was, I'm working on a talk and doing some research on masculinity. When the word toxic masculinity came up, which you said it shouldn't be a word that we should be using, and I thought about that and agreed. So welcome.
Good to be here.
You have Pit Stop. It's an app. And that has been developing and growing, helping young men, because there is a feeling out there that they need some sort of direction because of what's going on. So let's start there. Why? Why did you focus your business on helping young men?
Well, we help actually men of all ages. I started the business. I had a health scare 3 years ago, Joe. When I woke up in the hospital, it was a catalyst for me to think about making some changes, getting my shit together, having better priorities in life, having more balance. And I went looking for a tool, an app, and I couldn't find one for men at the time. I could find some great apps for women, such as Flow and Fabulous and others. There are a lot of apps that are for both men and women, but frankly are skewed towards women. Like 75% of a Calm or Headspace is used by women. And so I thought that was interesting. I thought, okay, is there a gap in the market? And I spent several months then studying that, researching that, whether there was a gap in the market and a market in the gap, and did lots of focus groups. And the answer was yes. I think there's a gap to help men initially, but then it'll be all people, men, women, boys and girls, to fulfill their potential. A lot of your listeners, if you go back to business school, might remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Only 1 to 2% of us get to the top level, which is called self-actualisation. We call that peak potential. 1 to 2% of people, that's it, right? That's too low. When I had my health scare, I went looking for a tool to help me get to more potential. And we want to help hopefully millions of others of people around the world get to their peak potential. That's sort of the mission.
You mentioned their peak potential. Why do you feel so many people are not reaching their peak potential?
Yeah, great question. I think I guess there's lots of reasons that, why can't you move up that pyramid? People might be just focused on security and safety and just, getting through each day, right? Day to day, depending on their circumstances. They mightn't have a growth mindset. They mightn't want to sort of keep learning and keep improving to ultimately try and hit their potential. They mightn't have access to the resources to help them get to their peak potential. And that could be content, it could be community, it could be coaches. And a big part of what Pit Stop is all about is connecting people with the right coaches. So I think there's lots of reasons, but I'm frustrated with that 1 to 2% score. We want to increase that. I have 3 kids and I want them to, first of all, be happy. That's my main consideration, but B, fulfill their potential in whatever it is they want to do. And they need the tools and support to get there.
Well, sometimes I wonder, have we created a system that makes it easy for people to fail?
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. And I think the first thought that comes to mind there is with the advent of AI. AI is going to actually make it harder for people probably to succeed. I mean, we're going to need more creative people. We're going to need those simple jobs of maybe simple automation. They're going to go. And so people are going to have to reinvent themselves. Maybe that might change the context.
Yeah, I think with AI, and I don't want to go down that route of AI, but I think everyone's going to do away with jobs, and then eventually it's going to do away with doctors and going to do away with everything. And the one thing that I kind of thought about was, history has a terrible way of repeating itself. And if there was a war, and in a war electricity went out, and everything was reliant on AI, are we going to could we push ourselves back into the dark ages because there'll be limited jobs, skills,
Yeah.
which we have relied on for technology. And then that kind of brings me back to the pyramids and, sketches on the wall and people wondering how did they build them? All these things that go through my head.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, I think anyone that wants to jump on AI, first learn what you need to do and then use AI. Don't use AI to do it because it's seductive, it's addictive, and it'll make silly people look smarter. So I
Yeah.
think it's first as human beings, and this is for men and women out there, learn your craft first. Something that I went on through my whole life was I had this thing when I was 20, life should be easier, things should be easier. I had this thing because, I seen my father get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and work and, a lot of children in the house and my mother couldn't work and got married and he had to do overtime to provide and everything. And I had this thing. And through the years when I had my own career, own businesses, it was always, how can things be easier? I've realized what it is after many years. It's people need to, if someone wants to be that 1% that you were talking about, they need to focus on a skill and get really, really good at that skill. It's, the best investment that we can make, and we spoke about this before, is investing in yourself. And if you invest in yourself and get really good at that skill, other people then will want you to assist them in what they need to do because you have that skill.
Yeah, the only sort of comment I'd say there is it's not all about maybe just business or career. We look at life from what we call a wheel of life, which is 6 components: health, mindset, leisure, relationships, career, finance. And to get to peak potential, you really need to be thinking about balance and scoring as high as possible for you in each of those areas. And some people might want to score high and less high in other areas. So there's a lot to work on, right? How do you become the best? How do you become the best version of yourself in terms of relationships or
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah. Again, as my creative mind works, and let me throw these at you.
Sure.
The first, I do a lot of thinking, and you do as well. One is faith, and that's believing in something. You can believe in source, divine, energy. What I don't believe in nothing, but it's the belief in something. The next one for me was family unit. My children, my wife, everything is important, and that was the drive as well. And then it was fitness, and that was mental and physical health.
Yeah.
And that's getting the body, I want to live a long time. I don't want to be, stuck with a cane.
Yeah.
So it's putting in that time. And then my mental health is being able to be resilient with whatever comes. And then the next one, which is an F, but it's philosophy. And then that's, looking at life and general behavior and how we are as well.
Yeah.
And those 4 elements is like a guide that assisted me to becoming a better person. So I'll ask you a question. What do you feel there is not enough of?
Well, generally in this world, I don't think there's enough love. Is one way to answer that, Joe. In terms of like bringing it back to sort of our mission, I don't think there's enough coaching and mentoring. The difference being mentoring is more, as we view it, is probably more free, whereas coaching, you're getting time with experts. And like, just like when I became a dad, like no one told me how to become a dad. One of the most important jobs in the world, right? You sort of have to learn on the job. That's not how corporates teach their trainees. You get taught how to do your job. I mean, you get mentored and coached. I think as society, we're sort of failing people that like there should be guides on how to be a great man, how to be a great young man, how to be should be guides about how to live through life, as opposed to just a sporadic learning along the way. So I'm a big believer, like the company is called Pit Stop. I'm a big believer in this concept of a pit crew. So like, who's your pit crew? Who's going to help you through your journey? Who's going to help optimize your car? And everyone, in my view, like the best companies in the world, Joe, have great boards of advisors helping the CEO, CFO, navigate the journey. I love that anecdote. Why don't we as individuals all have our own pit crew of advisors? And that could be, a business mentor, it could be an executive coach, it could be nutritionist, it could be whatever it is for that person to help them get to their peak potential. That's what I'd love to see more of, coaches and mentors.
You mentioned there that, young men and how they can be better, and you talk about being a father. And the one thing that jumped in my mind when I was, was I used to time myself to see how quick I could change a nappy in a changing room in a coffee place, So I did it got really good at it, because
Yeah, like doing F1.
yeah, like, and, a pit stop. But if you could start from scratch, you're 20 or 19 looking in the mirror and you got the road ahead of you.
Mm.
Looking back, what skills would you wish that you had to cover all those bases that you spoke about? One or two that to assist you, because there's young people will be listening to this and they go, okay, I get all that, but what's the first thing that I should be looking at?
I think it all starts with waking up every day and adopting a growth mindset. If you have that, you're going to want to be hungry to learn, innovate, trial, fail, improve. So it's an ethos, it's an approach to living.
Define growth mindset.
Well, the opposite of growth mindset, maybe it's easy to define by what it is not. A lot of people have what's called a fixed mindset. They have their ways and that's it. That's their approach to whether it's to each of those components of life. And they don't want to learn or evolve or trial or experiment. And I don't believe in a fixed mindset at all. I think most successful people have a growth mindset. They're hungry to learn. They're lifelong learners across all the components of life. They never stand still. They're always, looking to have dialogue, experiment, and so forth. Yeah.
Discipline, focus, commitment.
Yeah, like there's a great quote, isn't it? Like, talent without discipline is nothing. It's interesting. A lot of great business people I've met over the years have been ex-army, because guess what? They're top of the class from a discipline perspective, and they can get stuff done. Yeah, discipline's huge.
Yeah, it's, an example from myself. I wanted to get up 2 hours earlier, and I'm a night owl, and I wanted to get back training, and I wanted to lose. I was 89 kg, and I wanted to get down to 82 kg, which I've hit the target.
Nice.
And I had to restructure my life so I could achieve that. And that was creating new habits each and every day. And in the beginning, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Like getting out of bed at 6 and kind of going, why? Why? Getting out of bed at 5:30 and going, why? And then getting to the gym and the motivation. And the reason I'm saying this is that we can give someone all these tools,
Yeah,
to achieve greatness if they want in life, in business, whatever it may be. But they need to have the desire, the discipline, and the focus to do it. So, and are the majority of people somewhat lazy, not willing to break out of their comfort zone because they're being it in a way?
yeah. I think a certain percentage of the population is definitely. I think the lady that coined the phrase growth mindset, had low tens. The percentage was low tens of the world have a growth mindset. I think it may be a 30 or 40% max would have a growth mindset. But frankly, we need to help people, right? Because there's shortcuts and like cheap methods to get habit. Like there's like habit stacking, for example, right? Sometimes a really basic example. Sometimes if I'm tired on a Friday evening, I've got to work an extra hour from 5 to 6 p.m. to get me through the hour. I say, what, you know what? I'll have a beer while I'm doing it. And it just makes it easier, right? So that's one sort of silly example. But another one, I often stand at my desk the first half hour or an hour in the morning. And while I do that, I wear a weighted vest. So I'm sort of habit stacking, right? And like the landing page of the Pit Stop app is all about it's a world-class habit tracking tool because as the great basketballer LeBron James said, we are the sum of our habits. And there's no point being coached and mentored if you don't execute it, to your point, Joe. So we're trying to help people. We have a guide to habits that talks about habit stacking and all that. And, there's a science and there's people that have done PhDs and all of this. And we want to try and help people make habits easier. I appreciate they're difficult, but well, to your earlier point, like first of all, you have to understand the why. If I'm going to jump into an ice bath, it's so much easier to make it habit if you understand the benefits and the cheat in terms of how to breathe. If you don't know how to breathe, it's bloody tough. The trick with ice baths or jumping into a cold sea is breathe out. Don't breathe in. Breathe out slowly. I did a Wim Hof course, right? And when you know that, actually, it gets so much easier. Because if you breathe in, you go and you start panicking.
Yeah, no, I can't even get into a cold shower. I'm well done on that. It's maybe something that I'll put on my bucket list. Yeah. Yeah, you're right where people need to, you can show them and say, look, they need to have the will to do it. And sometimes, like you had a health scare, or for me, it was, just, oh my God, my mobility, even though I'm in my 50s, is changing from when I used to be able to do the splits in my, 20s in martial arts. I think there's something that stores inside us as we get older, which makes us want to make that change. But wouldn't it be great if we could install that in people in their youth?
Because then they can adopt the good habits from earlier on, and then that's one of the reasons Pit Stop today is for men, but we are working on an app for teenage boys, Joe, to get in there early. Next year we're going to work on an app for women and girls, but yeah, I agree. The sooner we can get to people and form better habits, the better.
Okay, Mr. Tate, who is a influencer, has a big following, and some of the stuff that he has said, allegedly said, um, has sort of caused a lot of stir up online and a lot of followers. Why do you feel there is a huge following of young men towards him? Is it because they're lacking mentors? Is it because they're lacking people to look up to in their own life?
It's a great question, and there's so many people have commented on it, and I can give you some thoughts, but you could write a dissertation on this to have a proper answer. But I think society is sort of failing younger boys, younger men. Boys are falling behind. The data's there. The American Institute of Boys and Men has the data to prove that. They're falling behind in exams in college. They're not getting the good enough jobs, as good at jobs as ladies, and that's brilliant. It's not a zero-sum game. I'm delighted that young girls are doing great, but it is getting a bit worrying for boys. And the tough stats are, here in Ireland, Ireland ranks fourth worst in terms of suicide for boys aged 15 to 19. So the stats are there. Why is it? Yeah, I think there's a void. I think there's a void. I think who are the positive role models out there for these younger men, and where are they? What are they saying? I don't. There are positive role models, but they're not as vocal as chaps, as some of these sort of more toxic influencers, and they're filling the void, and it frustrates me. And positive role models or influencers don't need to be famous people. I mean, there was a US survey which showed the number one role model for younger boys is their dads, followed by their mums, and then teachers. The problem in terms of the gap is there's a huge amount of divorce. So are the dads still living in the same dwelling? And the teachers, there's not enough male teachers anymore, particularly in primary or junior schools. So where's the masculine influence on these young men? So there's a big gap. Richard Reeves of the American Institute of Boys and Men, his number one ask would be to increase male teachers as a solution to the boys' problem.
Yeah. And one of the things which, for me, I was blessed having so many brothers and a great father. And, I was in scouts and learned so much, in scouts. And I look at today that, people are very much want to wrap their children up in cotton wool, and there's more safety and there's health and safety, climbing and everything as well. Like when I was younger, if I was thrown out of the house, and you were probably as well, at 10 a.m. in the morning, and you ran off with your friends, and your parents wouldn't know if you were missing, because you didn't come home for your dinner at 6, and
Yeah.
something could have happened to you at 11. That was it. And I look at these organizations, like, let's look at Menshed. And Menshed is for older men in communities to, talk, to have a place, and they can, whittle away with wood. They can, they have a coffee and everything as well, a couple of days. And the thing about Menshed, I kind of thought about, some of them are closing down because they've got this feeling that it's for old, retired boys. Wouldn't it be great if they sort of looked at it and went, okay, let's do a little rebrand or a little jump, that it's for old, wise men passing knowledge and wisdom on to young people.
Yeah, it goes back to that whole mentoring point. Yeah.
It goes back to community.
Community as well. Community is so important in all of this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It would be good.
So if I'm a young man and I come across Pit Stop, what's it going to do for me?
So today it's for adult men. So we would define that as sort of 18 and up. There's a men's app available today. For teenage boys, we'll launch a separate version of the app by the end of October. Does three things. We can provide self-coaching for free, peer coaching for free, and then we have a marketplace of expert coaches where you can engage expert coaches to help various things. From a self-coaching perspective, we have amazing content in there. We have habit tracking tools to actually help you change. That's free because we want to help as many people as possible. What we mean by peer coaching is, to your point, Joe, the community. Men live with their masks on. They don't open up. They don't talk like women do. Women are much better at talking about things, positive and negative. It's not always just negative mental health issues, but positive things. So we're trying to create a community where there's interesting polls and forum threads to sort of spark conversation. Now, lots of men don't want to be attributed. They can be unattributed or anonymous in their comments, but at least they're sort of commenting and seeing what other real men are commenting on. But all roads really lead to reach your peak potential. In our view, all roads lead to coaching. So what we're building is a marketplace of coaches. There'll be 24 categories ranging from executive coach, career coach, nutritionist, sleep coach, performance coach. We have a guy ex-Chelsea. He was a performance coach at Chelsea. If you really want to think about high performance, he's your man. Nutritionist. I'm actually looking for a Whoop coach. We're going to put a Whoop coach up there to sort of build a relationship with me to based on my data, tell me maybe some tweaks to make in June 2024. And the cool thing about the coaching is we're trying to democratize it. And to do that, like, there's some coaches obviously very expensive, right? If you book a one-on-one hour slot. So we're trying to democratize it in two ways. One is you can coach by message instead of 1 hour video. That's a lot more affordable and easier for the coach to sort of execute. And actually, I think younger men might prefer that because it's sort of they're used to messaging. And then a big ambition of ours is to create AI personas of expert coaches with the expert in the loop. So say there's an executive coach in London that charges 500 sterling an hour called Steve. We would leverage all his information, all his data to build an AI persona as Steve. So instead of charging 500 quid an hour, we charge 50 quid an hour. So not just the CEO of Tesco can work with Steve, a lot of other executives or junior to mid-level people can work with Steve and get similar advice. So we're trying to democratize the best coaches so that we can get back to that mission, as many people up the Maslow's pyramid as possible.
What's the one thing that people go for first out of all this nutrition and, mental health? And if you're looking at the data and the research, what's the first thing they dive into that they want help?
I think younger men tend towards the gym when they think about work-life balance and wellness. They think just gym, which is very narrow. I think men think about executive coaching. When people think of coaching, what's available, generally they just think three things: executive coaching, life coaching, and therapy. Most people don't look beyond those sort of three categories. We're trying to take it to the next level so that if you there's categories like as I mentioned, whoop coach, sleep coach, nutritionist, even sexologist, right? No one teaches us how to have good sex, but like we do it so often. So any category that can ultimately help you in your life, we'll have in there.
What's the end goal that most people want to achieve? Progress, but is it fulfillment? Is it happiness? Is it, like in sales, when we talk about sales and train people into sales, is it, if you look at the whole sales process, someone has something that they want changed, and that could be fulfillment. It could, when you strip back the layers, it actually could really deep down to it is there's something that they want changed in their life that makes their life easier or happier, or time does, it's a change. And we call, to find that, we call it DBM, trying to find a person's dominant buying motive on it. And I wonder, eventually, with all the people signing up to the app, will you be able to find that DBM? That the one reason why all these people join it.
Yeah, look, I think everyone is different. There'll be different reasons for different people. Some people might want to improve their relationships. Some people might want to improve their mindset or their health.
Let me throw this at you then. Could it be loneliness?
I don't think that'll be the sole factor. I think it is an epidemic, especially in the States, for sure.
Yeah.
Probably going to get worse with younger people. And then we have a big push on community. You know, um, community will be important, but ultimately, I think it's about, defining peak potential and self-actualization, and happiness and fulfillment are part of that, to your earlier point.
Yeah, and the reason why I say lonely is because you mentioned at the beginning, there's not enough love in the world. And with all the, and everyone working at home and the way that society is set up, are people feeling lonely?
I think a certain percentage of the population are definitely. There's data. There's lots of data to prove that. That's not the number one solve of our app, though.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's and so many people then feel lonely, feel lost, and then feel inadequate, and then unfortunately, as we know, we have a suicide problem then as well.
Yes.
Your own children, do they use counseling or mentoring and everything as well? Because and the reason, because my son, I sort of say to him, I said, look, the best thing you can do is invest in yourself. Work. He's working in a job, and they they said the feedback is that he's brilliant. He wants to do something all the time because he's learning and learning and wants to learn, because he feels that he has an advantage. And if he puts his time and effort into it, it will benefit him as he gets older. And I try and guide him when I can, but sometimes also, and then I have younger daughters as well, and sometimes they don't want to listen to your advice, and sometimes they listen to a stranger. Do you
Yeah.
find that yourself?
Yeah. So my 16-year-old boy is getting coached through the app. There's a 60-year-old coach down in Buenos Aires, Argentina, who's done coaching for 20 years and is coaching my son via messaging. And he enjoys it because it's like a sounding board from someone who's not the dad or mum, and he can bounce all sorts of questions of this person. My daughter, we're going to engage the same coach for my daughter, and my daughter's going to college in September, and I think it'd be brilliant, and so does she, just to have someone to help her think about college, building towards the career, answering all those sorts of questions, as well as other components of life. So yeah, I think it's like a buddy system. It's someone to sounding board, someone to be accountable to. It's a beginning of forming a pit crew. I think it's great. My 10-year-old son's too young, I think, too young at this point. Hopefully he has his mentors. He actually through teaching sport coaches and stuff in school. But in time, yeah, I think if you look at the best business people and sports people, they all have coaches, multiple coaches, you know?
Yeah, and it's practice, 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 practice. And I think young people see the success, but they don't know. Like you've had a couple of businesses, as well that you exited out of, and I don't think people see, those sleepless nights, the hard work that we've had to put in. And some, in the beginning, the worry and the uncertainty and going, oh my God, how are we going to pay the bills this month, or how are we going to put food on the table? Because when you go into that entrepreneurial life, it's there's years of toughness, and I think you need resilience in that. Everyone will see you as, look, he's doing great, but I'm sure you were like me many years ago when you're going, oh my God, what's it like to live on minimum wage?
Yeah, entrepreneurial route is high reward, but it's high risk.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it is high reward now. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
being able to push through those barriers and being able to have the freedom to live the life. And the reason I mention this, because look, most of our listenerships are the age between 35 and 55 in America,
Yeah,
here in Ireland. There are people that who have businesses and want to be better, and then there's people who are taking that journey. And the reality of it is, there is a moment of when you are in that valley of death, and you have to kind of, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, the question I have for you, um, what did you get wrong to get right?
Yeah, interesting. The first startup I did failed here in Ireland and the UK. That's like a big no-no, but actually in the States, it's applauded because it's the best. I call it my MBA of startups. So uh, I left an investment bank back in 2007, 2008 to start a business. I launched it in September 2008, and a few weeks later, Lehman's collapsed. So my timing was awful. And look, you can't time timing, but I got I got that wrong. But I learned so much from that. So I learned a lot from the failure of having to close down a business. Really, really bloody tough, and gave me thick skin. Having to communicate to the shareholders that we had to close it down, that was really tough. But I learned a hell of a lot from it. And on my LinkedIn profile, I publicly say I have a failure under my belt. I'm not, it's important to sort of discuss that and have, and to move on. It's okay to fail. If you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough. And when I go skiing, I say to people, if you don't fall, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, I can relate that. I had a business that broke us really. There was the amount of money that was pumped into it, that entrepreneurial, okay. And then realized that my partners were not, I should have done more research, tweak research. So, I had to pull through it. But we learn from it, and there comes great success after on it. So look, you've learned from that. And I quickly want to ask you, just, if someone wants to find Pit Stop, wants to jump on, look at the app, which I will myself as well, and see how it can assist me and, let's see, and other people as well over the years, to see how they can be, as I say, better. Where can they get that?
Yeah, so the website is takeapitstop.com, because we're trying to encourage people to sort of just take some time out and actually reflect on their lives, what they want to get out of their lives, how to reach their peak potential. The app is available on the app stores. I just stick in Pit Stop, Men's Health, it'll come up. We have a podcast called Drive to Thrive, which is interviewing people, a lot of interesting role models about, how they've lived through their lives and their advice for others. And there's a big free component of the app, Joe, for your listeners. All that content, the community is complimentary, because we're genuinely want to help people all around the world get up the pyramid, get to the peak potential. And the marketplace of coaches, we have a few coaches there. It's in development. By the end of this summer, we'll have lots of the different categories that we mentioned earlier. And yeah, we encourage people to take a trial, try some of these coaches to see if it can help.
Brilliant. A couple of people I'm going to, in the States, I'll get them to jump onto it as well. Young people that are in companies that we're working with. And if someone wants to reach out to you on LinkedIn, how can they find you on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, please just email me direct on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to chat with anyone.
And if they find, how they find you, if they're listening to this, your URL on LinkedIn.
Just stick in Emmett Kilduff, Kilduff.
Okay. Emmett, look, great for coming on the show. Delighted. It was a inspiring conversation. It's given me, something to ponder on for the rest of the day. So thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Joe. Take care. Have a nice day.
Getting it wrong to get it right.